In this video, I'm going to teach you how to do rear brakes on a 2004 Lexus ES330, so stay tuned. Today, we're going to figure out how to identify brake noise. What we're working on is a 2004 Lexus ES330. The client says he's hearing grinding noises. He thinks it's from the back. I'm gonna take it for a little test drive and see what I can hear. This car has 215,000 miles on it. Now when you're identifying brake noises, what you want to do is make sure you know if it's front or rear. You want to listen to what kind of noise it is. If it's grinding or squealing, a lot of times grinding means the brake pads are gone already. In this case, it sounds like it's a squeal. So either the brake wear indicator on the pad is touching the rotor, or the hardware is grinding. Maybe it's been moved. To me, it sounds like hardware is rubbing in the back. This particular person has already provided me with pads and rotors for the rear, just in case that's what we figure out is going on. So I'm gonna finish this quick test drive and then take a look and see what I can find out. Okay, I'm just finishing up my test drive. One good way to figure it out, if it's front or rear, is when the noise is happening, stick your head out the window sideways and see if your left or right ear is picking up more of the noise. That can be difficult sometimes. Not everyone can do it. You know, I've been a mechanic for a long time now, so I've trained my ears to pick up on that kind of thing. What I am hearing is coming from the rear. So I'm gonna get this vehicle in my driveway. I'm gonna get the wheels off the vehicle and inspect the rear brakes and see what I can find. I took a little peek at them before I left, and there was no grinding, no indication that the pads were worn completely down. So, you know, like I stated before, I think this is just a hardware issue, but we're gonna go ahead and most likely replace the rear brakes anyway. They haven't been done in a long time, and I have a feeling that there's been some rust buildup on the pads and they're kind of getting stuck, and when the caliper squeezes them, I think it might be moving the hardware, causing it to rub on the rotor. So I'm gonna get out here and get this thing in the air, and we're gonna go from there. Now, like I said, we're gonna start by removing these lug nuts. This car happens to have one of these. This is called a wheel lock key. You may or may not need one of these for yours. So we're gonna get this wheel off and see what these brakes look like. Okay, so I'm looking here, and one thing I noticed is the top of this rotor is super shiny. Okay, nothing should be touching the top of the rotor, so that's definitely where the noise was coming from. Take a look here, and it looks like we're gonna need a 14 millimeter, a 17 millimeter. We're gonna need a brake caliper depressor. We're gonna need a hammer. We're gonna need some brake clean and some brake lubricant, some towels. This flathead screwdriver we use to come in here and check the calipers. You can pry on them, and if they move freely, that's a good sign. If they don't want to come back, if they don't want to move, that's a bad sign. That's what's happening to this one. I can't get this one or the other side to compress with a screwdriver. I think it just needs to be lubricated on the slide pins here, so I'm going to go ahead and start disassembling the brake system and see if I can't get away without replacing calipers on this job. So we're going to start by removing this 17 millimeter slide pin. Now I'm going to push back while I spin and release the slide pin. Next, what I'm going to do is put a screwdriver in here under the caliper, and try to slide it outward. Now this is much harder than it should be. Oh, I can't even get it to move. So I think what I'm going to do is move this thing back and forth and pry this way and try to get this caliper to release. And if I can get it out of here by working it back and forth, I can probably lubricate and clean out the inside of this board area for the slide pin. So we'll keep moving. If you look here, it's completely dry, and that's why that caliper was sticking. So like I said, what we can do here is lubricate, clean up and lubricate this area and clean out the inside of this caliper and hopefully prevent this from happening in the future. What I'm gonna do here is take a towel and spray some brake clean in it, and we'll take that, clean this area off. You don't want any dirt, sand, rust, anything on here. If it gets really bad, where there was excessive rust on this, I would take a grinder of some sort and clean it up, and then clean it off like I just did with the rag. And next we're going to lubricate this area. This is just a little synthetic caliper grease. Now what I like to do is only lubricate one side of the caliper slide pin. And the reason that is because if you cover the entire pin with grease, it'll create an airtight seal, and when you try to push the caliper on, it'll actually push the air that's stuck inside there, will push the caliper back out, and that can cause the caliper to squeeze on the brake pads when you let off the brake and create excessive wear. So, and by doing one side, you have a little air pocket that can escape on the back side here. So as you push the caliper on, the air pushes out, and then you can move it up and down and move the lubricant all the way around the pin. Just like that. Next, I'm going to remove the pads. After that, we have two 12mm bolts to remove to get this caliper bracket out of the way. Actually, I think those are 14mm. Next, we're going to remove the rotor by hitting it with a hammer. Now sometimes your vehicle may have an emergency brake that uses brake shoes on the inside of the rotor, kind of like a drum setup. As you saw, this rotor came off the vehicle very hard, and that's because they must not use their emergency brake very often, and the rust buildup created a nice hard lip to get over right here. So, but once you get this removed, you can start reassembling the brake job. Put the rotor on, put the caliper bracket back on. You may want to re-lubricate it one more time, and then put the brake pads in and move to the other side. Now these brake pads come with the hardware. This goes in a bracket like so. When I'm preparing brake pads, what I like to do is open the box they're in and lay them face down. Now, a lot of people say to lubricate the pads. Some people say to lubricate underneath the hardware. Both methods work. I'm not saying this is the right or wrong way to do it. This is just how I do it. But I will lubricate, not too much, just in the areas where the pad touches the hardware. Be real careful not to get it on the pad material or on your hands. And if you do get it on your hands, just handle it carefully so you don't touch the pad side. This is very important that you don't get these lubricants on the pad, because that will cause a brake squeak, and that's what we're trying to fix here, is a brake squeak. So just go ahead and lubricate these, set them back down. Now I'm going to spray some pad treatment on the back. Try to spray it straight down so you don't get any of it on the pads. You let it dry, it becomes sticky, and this helps with brake squeaks. Next thing we're going to do is remove the old hardware from the caliper bracket, and this is where we inspect these areas here for rust. If you have rust buildup in here, that's going to make the pads not want to fit when you reassemble your brake job. So always check underneath the hardware for rust buildup, and if you see something, go ahead and take care of it with a grinding wheel, with a wire brush, sandpaper, whatever you can to get this rust back down. I'm going to go ahead and use a wire wheel on a drill to clean out the rust here. Make sure you wear eye protection when doing this, and you should probably do this in a vise. It would work a lot better, but I'm just working with what I got right now. At this point, you're going to want to reinstall the new hardware. On this particular design, it goes in like this. Now, you need to be very aware of this piece of hardware down here. This is the piece that can make noise on the outside of the rotors. So what I do is I make sure that piece is all the way flush inside there. And if you make sure it's all the way where it's supposed to be, you should have no issues. So I'm going to do the same for this side. Squeeze it in there. Make sure it's all the way down. And reinstall this bracket. Now when preparing your rotor, if you look at it, it comes with oils on it to prevent it from rusting when it sits in the package. You need to get this oil off here. On this car, I had an e-brake on the inside of here, so don't forget to clean the inside of here as well. What I'm using today to clean these rotors is some non-chlorinated brake cleaner and some towels. You want to make sure you get all the oils off these rotors. What I like to do is spray the inside of the rag. Just wipe the face of it. Wipe the inside of it. Again, keep it in the box, flip it around, repeat the same process. This rotor is now ready to go on the vehicle. When I handle these, I touch the areas that don't touch the pads. So I pick it up this way, slide it on, and reinstall the bracket. Sorry about the wind. Every time I hit play, it seems like it wants to blow. When reinstalling the bracket, it's just the reversal of taking it apart. Just go ahead, tighten everything up, and double check to make sure nothing's making any funny noises. Now, when reinstalling the pads, again, be careful to touch them by the sides. Make sure they go in nice and easy. And if you did your job right, they should just slip right into place, along with your newly lubricated caliper. Now once again, with the pin, brake clean, a rag, clean the area off, re-lubricate one side of it, finish the brake job, just retighten everything back up, torque it to spec, and double check that everything looks right. We're done with this brake job on this side. At this point, it's the same exact process, just on the other side of the vehicle. So when we get done with this side, this will all be new, and this noise should not be there anymore. Now with the wheels back on, we can lower the car and take it for a test drive. Now before you take the car anywhere, you want to make sure you pump the brakes up. Alright, I've been test driving the vehicle and the noise is gone. The concern of the brake squealing noise has been solved. So everything's all good in here. I'm gonna go return the vehicle to the owner, and that is how you do rear brakes on a 2004 Lexus ES330. I appreciate you guys for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. I'm just kidding. Apparently the front brakes on this car need to be done as well. When I took it for a test drive, it was pulsating. Called the customer. They said they wanted to take care of it, so they went to the parts store. They went ahead and dropped off some new pads and rotors. Got them from Napa. So we're gonna go ahead and get these brakes over here taken care of in the front. It's the same exact process as the rear were, so we're gonna go ahead and just do a quick time lapse of the front. I'm gonna knock it out real quick, and then this vehicle should be done, and we should be able to move on to the next one. Stay tuned. And just like that, we're done with the front brakes. I hope you guys found this video useful. If you do, give me a like, give me a comment, maybe a subscribe. And this time, for real, I'll see you on the next one.